Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I was given the task by Corinne Flick to be controversial, so that later, when we have the conversation, we can have a discussion. I find this very difficult because basically I would have to say yes to everything that Mr. Fuss said. So now, in this second, I have to try to create some tension. I would like to do that basically by going right to the beginning. Mr. Fuss thankfully pointed out that as much as we believe is changing, as much is staying the same. If we're talking about capitalism today, I think we should very briefly, before we hear a lot about the digitalization hype, we should talk about the social innovation that basically has brought us as far as we are. This social innovation that has made it possible for us in a world of 8 or 9 billion people to live in a world where many, not everybody, but many have enough food, have a roof over their head, and get education. And this social innovation is the market. Very often, students approach me and say, the market is a mechanism for the effective allocation of scarce resources. And basically, they're right. But I see the market as something different, something bigger, something more exciting. For me, the market is no less than a mechanism by means of which we people and human beings can coordinate ourselves and agree on something without having to have the same targets. We can pursue complementary purposes and nonetheless still benefit from it. And that is very exciting, because if we look at the other forms of organization by means of which we human beings used to coordinate ourselves, the military, associations, the family, if we look at all these other forms of organization, such as the company, a corporation, then all of these other organizational forms are primarily marked by the fact that we pursue or have to pursue the same or similar targets and goals. The exciting thing about the market is that we can pursue different goals and at the same time inspire each other. The ability for the market to coordinate supports what Corinne said in her introduction, and that is due to the decentralized characteristic of the market. Decisions on the market are decentralized, and there's a huge advantage to this, and the advantage is resilience. If one person on the market makes a wrong decision, well, the market isn't destroyed. However, if the management of Air Berlin takes 2 or 3 wrong decisions, then Air Berlin will not continue to exist. So the decentralization of the market gives us the possibility to coordinate and to be resilient. So to that extent, the market is perhaps the social innovation that is the least praised. But in order to let the market be so successful, we need 2 things on the market in any case. And on the one hand, that is, we have to know what is on the market, and we have to be able to tell the other players on the market what preferences we have. And as Corinne said quite rightly, a lot of information has to flow from everybody to everybody. And this information has to be able to be converted into decisions. And with both of these things, we have a certain amount of difficulty. On a small scale, that isn't a problem. Just imagine a small market of vegetables with 5 stands. To go from one to the next to find out what do the bananas and the oranges cost and the strawberry cost, that is not a big problem. But to do that for big markets, for hundreds of thousands of market participants and market players, means that you have to have a huge flow of information and a necessity to have a lot of communication. And it's a big challenge also to convert this information into decisions and decision-making. Psychologists told us very clearly that we fail when we have 3 products and we have to compare 3 qualities properly. So what did we do? We built the market to a certain extent by trying to solve the information and the decision-making problem with a crutch, and this is the price. So instead of taking our manifold preferences and having to communicate them on the market, we poured them into one bucket and condensed them into one price, the price that we are willing to pay, the price for which we are willing to sell services and products. Friedrich August von Hayek, he is a Nobel Prize winner for economics for many years, for his entire life, said the price was the most important thing. And in his opinion, and he's probably right, the price is the thing that makes the conventional market function. The price is not communicated as an abstract value, but it is something with which we can actually do something that is tangible. And price is something that is reflected in money. Price and money basically are the language, the form of communication by means of which we communicate on the market. But that also means that our manifold preferences have been condensed into one single figure. And if I go into a shoe shop and try on shoes and then ask, how expensive are they? And the sales lady says 120 euros, and I say, no, thank you, and I leave the shop, then the market got an information. These shoes were not bought for that price, but basically the market then knows very little. The market doesn't know whether I didn't buy the shoes because they didn't fit me, because they didn't have the right color, or because I forgot my wallet at home. So the market doesn't know that. And that is why, based on that information, decisions are taken which are not optimal, which are not the peak of efficiency. That worked sufficiently well. Price and money-based markets worked well, or at least well enough, for us to lead a better life. But they made decision-making difficult for us. An entire sub-discipline of economists, the behavioral economists, showed us that by condensing everything to a price, comparing is more easy. But it also makes people compare apples and oranges. Steve Jobs gave us a fantastic example for that. When he presented the iPad when he was still alive, the iPad at the time cost $499, and it was almost twice as much than the small network computers, which were just as powerful at the time. That cost $250 to $300, and the marketing specialists at Apple pulled their hair out and said, how can we position this iPad in such a way that the people don't, and the expert don't say, it costs double of what it is actually worth? And Steve Jobs said, there's a very simple solution for that, a so-called framing. So he said, when he presented the iPad, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are presenting a revolutionary product, an extremely fast tablet with a touch screen, high resolution, very easy to use." And when we asked the experts how it cost to build such a device, they said $999. And at that moment, behind him, you saw the figure $999. And he said, "But we squeezed the price, and today we can offer it for $499. And everybody applauded and said, "Wow." In comparison to $999, $499 is a bargain. So you're comparing apples and oranges. As soon as we see a price, we are socialized, and we are quickly focused on that price and on that figure and that number, and we break everything down to that. And sometimes that blinds us to make the right decision. So the price-based markets don't work optimally. They work well enough, but they're not optimal. The exciting thing about digitalization for me, as far as the economy is concerned, is that now we don't only have the price on the market, but lots of other information about the products offered, but also about the products that are demanded and the services. Just think how some of you, at least I and my parents 40 years ago, planned and chose vacations. We had a big catalog. We read through it. We knew that every description is a lie and the photos are fake. And we tried to read between the lines. And then we went somewhere, we traveled somewhere, and if the hotel wasn't really awful, we went there next year again because the risk was too big to try something new. So how do my students do that today? They go onto a big booking.com or another big booking platform, and they have a lot of filter possibilities. They put in their preferences, and price has a subordinated role. What is also important is whether you have free Wi-Fi in the hotel, where the hotel is located. They go onto Google Maps and look via Street View what the neighborhood looks like. They read the reviews. They look at the pictures, not those made by the hotel itself, but by the people who've already stayed in that hotel. So, in other words, they find a much better match on the market. And for that, they get more bang for the buck, more performance for the money they spend. So that means that these markets with huge data are much more efficient and give a lot more for what we put in compared to conventional markets. And that is why so many appreciate Amazon, not because it's the cheapest supply in terms of the price, but because I can find exactly what I want to have. And that in itself is worth something. And that is why I am prepared to pay a little bit more on Amazon. So that means now we have a transition, thanks to digitalization, from markets who are price and money based to markets with a lot of data where price is only one decision-making feature. And you have a car sharing or trip sharing platforms, which is called BlaBlaCars from France. They offer 30 million shared trips a month. And if you are looking for the possibility to drive somebody in somebody else's car, then the supplier can only give a price within the frameworks. But the participants on the market can say what music preferences they have, or whether if they are if they're traveling with somebody, whether they like to talk a lot or not a lot or very little. Blah 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 car. And there again, you can find a match. And quite honestly, maybe you've had that experience as well. It's important when you take a trip in a car to have somebody who has a similar taste of music and who is similarly willing to talk with you and have a conversation. But that means that with the help of this digital technology, we can finally arrive at a market which basically was promised us from the very beginning. And that is a market that lets us coordinate in the best possible way, which provides us with good matches, that fires the market, that drives the market. And in the future, I am assuming, the market will provide a better and more efficient coordination of human beings. And that also means that other institutions that we've developed in order to fire the market might have to be changed. Let's just think of money. Money has a function as a means of payment, but in the conventional market, it used to have an informational function. Via the money and the price, we informed the market. And if we get the information out via data, money is losing this function, at least to a certain extent. And that doesn't mean that in the future we're not going to be paying with money. No, we will definitely be paying with money. But it does mean that the institutions of money, the banks and the financial services providers, the conventional money-based markets may have to change their classical, traditional business models. They may have to rethink them. I agree with Mr. Fust that as much as is going to change with digitization, as central will the institutions remain that gave us the market economy, and that is the market. But to support this market, to reach its own potential, and in doing so, not only make our own lives better and more efficient, but also more sustainable. All of that makes it worth thinking about change.